Hi. Hi. In this lesson, Mat100 6.1, 6.2, we're going to discuss addition and subtraction of signed numbers. And let's try some here and see what we can do. Suppose we had 8 plus 2. Well, we know the answer to that is 10. But what if you were playing a game and you lost $5 and then you lost $2 more? Well, that would be a negative 7, huh? A loss would be a negative number. So let's try another one here. What if we had a negative 3 plus a 7? Negative 7. Well, again, you lost 3, you lost 7, you lost a negative 10. So how can we write that into a rule? There's basically 2 rules for addition of certain signed numbers. The addition rules. The first rule says, if the signs are the same. Okay, if the signs are the same. In other words, if they're both negative or they're both positive, we've got 2 numbers and the signs are the same, what do? What did we do here? We added these numbers together. So we're going to do 2 things. We're going to add, and the second thing is, and keep same sign. So if the signs are the same, we're going to add those numbers together and we're going to keep the same sign. So if I have a negative 2 plus a negative 8, I'm just going to add them together and they're going to stay the same because they both are negative numbers. If I have 3 negative numbers, that's okay. As long as the signs are all the same, I'm going to add them all up and I'm going to keep the common sign, the same sign, negative 10. And of course, if they were both positive, the same thing would happen. Positive numbers also have signs. So this would be 13. So if the signs are the same, we're going to add them. But what if the signs are different? Say we're adding 2 numbers together, one's a positive and one's a negative. They're different. Different signs. If the signs are the same and they have different signs, I guess we should say have different signs or opposite signs or whatever you want to call it, what do? Well, we're going to do 2 different things. Instead of adding them, we're going to subtract them. We're going to subtract those numbers and we're going to keep the sign of the one that occurs the most, of the number occurring the most, happening the most. Okay, this isn't really strict mathematical jargon, but we say to get it across. Let me show you. Think of it as a game. Here we have a negative 7 plus 3. The game is on. We got a negative number and a positive number, and we want to see who's going to win. So what we are going to do, if we got a negative and a positive, we're going to subtract. Just think of this as 7 take away 3 is 4. Now, what do we have more of? What number is happening the most? The 7s. We got more 7s than we got 3. 7's a bigger number. So we're going to keep that sign. We're going to use that sign. Maybe instead of saying you keep the sign, we're going to say use sign of the number that's happening the most, or the sign of the bigger number. Sign of bigger number. So let's refine these now. Number 1, sign rules. Addition. If the signs are the same, I'm going to abbreviate it a little bit. Add and keep common sign. Such as -2 plus -3, -5. 7 plus 2, 9. Both negative, both positive. Rule number 2, if signs are different, we're going to subtract, and then we're going to do use sign of bigger number. I think that's all we got to say. So think of it as a game. You got a -10 plus 3. Okay, they have different signs. We're going to subtract 7. And we have 10 is negative, but we have more 10. 10 is a bigger number than 3. So then we look at the sign in front of it and say, oh, it's negative. This should be a -7. Doesn't matter which one comes first. Suppose we had 8 plus -2. Okay, sometimes we put that in a parentheses to make sure you can see it's negative. So 8 plus -2, we're going to subtract, and we have 8 is a bigger number than 2, and we see 8 is positive, so it's going to be a +6. So we use whatever happens the most. 8's happen. It's kind of like a game between these two rival things. Let's try some more here. Let's write a few down. 4 plus a -3, and then -4 plus a 3, and oh, what else we got here? 6 plus a -2, and -3 plus a 7. I don't know, I just made up some problems. Okay, these have different signs, so we're going to subtract, but we have more positives than we have negatives. It's kind of like a game, the positives against the negatives. We have 4 positives, we only have 3 negatives, so the positives 1. Here we have another game. Difference between these is 1, but now we have more negatives than we have positives, so the answer comes out negative. 6 and -2, we subtract. We've got more positives than negatives, so it's going to be positive. -3 and 7, game on. 7 positives, only 3 negatives, so the positives win by 4. So that's all there really is to addition. All right, so let's try something a little bit tougher. Well, let me give you a variety of problems here. Let's suppose we had this problem. -15 plus 8, -6 plus -14, 7 plus a -2, and then a really big complicated problem. Almost didn't make the paper. Holy moly. Okay, we could have put this in a parentheses if we wanted to. So in this case, we got different signs, so we're going to subtract, and we have more negatives than we have positives. So whatever we have more of, that's the sign we're going to keep. So this has to be a negative. Here we're going to add and keep the common sign. The common sign is negative, and we're going to add them together, 20. If you lost 6 pounds and you lost 14 more pounds, you lost 20 pounds. Here we have a game, 7 and -2. You won $7 and you lost 2. So we're going to find the difference, 5, and we have more positives, so you're still $5 ahead. Now, when I do on a problem like this, where there's a lot of addition and subtraction, what I usually would do is add up all the negatives. And then I'll add all the positives. Because all these negatives are going to add up to a negative number. So that's a negative 35. And we're going to add up all the positives. That looks like it's going to be 2031 when I add these together. Now the game is on. We see you have more negatives than we have positives. So it's going to come out a negative 4. So usually that's how I add them. Kind of add all these negatives first, add all the positives or whatever you want to add first, but add the negatives in one column, the positives, then have the playoff, like the Super Bowl of the negatives and the positives. All right. Can we do with other numbers that aren't just always, these are called integers, when they're nice, kind of like whole numbers with signs, but we can do it with fractions too. Let's try this one. Oh, geez, this one was getting to be fun. Okay. Well, we see we have more negatives than positives. So let's put the negative sign, negative problem on the top and the positive number on the bottom. Now, what we need to do is change these so they both have the same denominators. So let's bring over these whole numbers, and then let's change these to eighths. So 2 times 4 is 8, 2 times 3 is 6. I'm going to multiply both of these by 2. 1 times 3 is 3, 1 times 8 is 8. So now they have the same, kind of the same last name. So we can invite them to the party. All right, and we're going to subtract because both of these are different. So 6 take away 3 is 3/8. 6 from 14 is 8. But we have more negatives than we have positives. So it's going to be negative 8 and 3/8. So that's the way we're going to work this problem. So that's kind of the idea behind it. Does that make sense? You can also use it for decimals. Suppose I had negative 21.6 plus a negative 9.8. Again, they're both negatives. All I got to do is add them together, put them under each other, and add them like you normally do. 14 carry the 1, 10, 11 carry the 1, 3. So we add them up just like normal, negative 31.4. So that's how we add and subtract. That's how we add negative numbers. And then you can mess around with them in positive numbers and stuff like that. Now, let's look at the subtraction row, 6.2. Subtraction of signed numbers. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to use our rules of addition, that's kind of strange, to help us with these subtraction of signed numbers. And the way we're going to do that is, well, let me show you. Let's start out with one that we know what the answer is going to be. 5 minus 2. We all know the answer should be 3. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep the first number the same. We're going to change the sign from subtraction to addition. We're actually performing a magic trick here. This now becomes plus. The number right after the subtraction sign is 2, becomes the opposite. The opposite of 2 is negative 2. Now we're going to use our addition rule. If the signs are different, we're going to subtract and use the one we have more of. We have more positives than negatives. So this will be a positive 3. And of course, we knew 5 minus 2 is 3. So it's called change this to addition, and change this. Sometimes I go to remind myself that I'm changing. Or you could go bam, bam, like we're really changing this. Let's try this one. That one looks kind of confusing. So, -7 starts the parade. Change the minus sign to plus. Change the 5 to the opposite, -5. Now, instead of having -7 minus 5, I got -7 plus -5. And here we have addition. The signs are the same. So it's going to stay a -12. It's just change, change. Let's try another one. Here's one that's pretty hard. Keep, bam, bam. See, I'm changing these. And the answer is 8. 4 plus 4 is 8. See, you might have thought that would be a -8 or 0 or something like that. But that's why we have to change, change. Okay, let me do another one. Chick. What's wrong? One chick, chick. It's got to be chick, chick. Two things have to happen. This has to become plus, and this has to become the opposite, +8. Chick, chick. Now you have two different numbers. Of course, you didn't need the positive sign, but you lost 12, then you got 8 back. Think of weight. You lost 12 pounds, and you gained 8 pounds, but you still have lost 4 pounds. The signs are different. We have more negatives than we have positives. So it's going to come out negative. Okay. How about a real hard one? Don't do anything to it. Bring it down. Think of this as a -2. Change, change. Don't change, don't change. You can do two different ways. You can add the negatives together and they're staying negative. Or you could say 3 minus 2 is 1, and 1 plus a -1 is 0. Or you could have said this is a -3 plus a 3 is 0. So when you add two opposite numbers and they're exactly the same, but they're opposites, it's going to be 0. Number plus its opposite is 0. All right. Even harder yet. Ooh, this one looks pretty hard. -3. This is pretty pronounced -3, not -3. -3. Now you could say -9 minus a -7 plus a -8 minus 2. Okay, what are we going to do? Keep, change. If it helps you to draw the little arrow, change. That is no longer a 9, it's a -9. Maybe put it in parentheses so we know. Change, change. It was -7, now it's +7. Don't do anything. Pluses don't get change happy. Fine, fine. Minus sign, change, change. So -3, change, change. Chick, 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 chick. Mm-mm, mm-mm. Chick, chick. Okay, so what do we got here? We got a mess. Let's try to get all these negative numbers together. I'm going to do it in my head. This would be -10. I can see right off the bat. -10. This is -12. So -10 and -12 is -22 plus a +7. Signs are different. What do we have more of? Negative. So the answer should be negative. And now we're going to subtract 7 from 12 is what? 5, huh? So this should be 15, negative 15. So we're going to subtract the two. 22, 7, 15. Negative. See, the top number will tell you what it's got to be because it's the bigger number. So the one you have more of, you put down. So that's kind of how we do subtraction. It's pretty cool stuff, huh? Pretty amazing. How about this one? 0 minus 26. 0 plus negative 26. Negative 26. Usually these are the hardest ones. Negative 27 minus a negative 16. But negative 27 plus negative 16. Now you got a negative and a positive. We're going to subtract. Game on. And that'll be 11. And we have more negatives than positives. So it's negative 11. So we can also do this with decimals. Here's one. 6.5 minus a negative 2.7. 6.5. Chick. The answer should be both positive. We're going to add them together. 12, 9.2. So sometimes it defies, like you might be thinking, that should be a negative number. And sometimes it tricks you up. So you want to practice some of these. There's a bunch in the book on, this is 376. Practice those additions and subtractions. Try to get those rows down. Because once you get them down, it'll be real easy. Just think when you have a positive number and a negative number, you're going to subtract them, and it depends on what you have more of. We have more positives, 8 positives to 2 negatives. Positives win in this case. So, all right, I hope that helps. And practice, 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 and then do some more practice. Because that's how you're going to get better at these things. You watch me and you do a few, it's good, but you need to do much more.